Hi, Peter Charles here of Hooked for Life Fly Fishing, and in this video we're going to look at how to cast the snake roll using only one hand. We're going to do it with regular trout gear, 4-weight rod, 4-weight line, and you'll look at the basics of this cast. And as I said in my other videos, it's actually easier to execute this cast with one hand than it is trying to use two hands on the rod handle. And you can see there's not an awful lot to it, and you can easily knock off a trout distance cast without a great deal of complexity.
Okay, here we're going to look at a cast called a snake roll. And the snake roll should only be performed when you have a downstream wind. You never want to perform a snake roll when the wind is coming at you upstream. Because what happens is if you're doing this snake roll on your right side, as we are here on what we call the right bank of the creek, and I do a snake roll with the wind coming this way, it's going to blow the fly into my face and I'll end up hooking myself. So when you're doing a snake roll, the first rule is always in a downwind, downstream, downwind. So the anchor gets placed downwind of you, never upwind of you. So I just want to get that safety bit in first before we start with this, because a lot of people ignore the wind and they end up pulling a hook out of their face. So the essence of the snake roll is rather simple. I'll put my fly downstream. What I'm going to do with the snake roll is I have to cast a D-loop just like the single spey and the roll cast. But to do that, I have to get that line out of the water, get the fly out of the water, and orient it across the creek. Remember, this is a change of direction cast. When you're doing a spey cast, it's a change of direction. So I'm going from that position to that position. And in order to do that, I have to make a D-loop. So I have line behind the rod that loads the rod. And the simplest way to visualize a snake roll is we're doing a number 9 in the air with our rod tip, and then we're crossing the bar of the 9. So we go up in the 9 and around. And the first movement is towards the bank behind you. So we don't go straight up in the air with the rod tip. We go behind us. So what that looks like is just simple motion like that, and off we go. So all I've done is made this circle, this number 9, back. So the first movement is towards the bank, and then I come up in front of the creek, and then I go back. And that's where your back cast is created, your D-loop is created. So, and there's my cast right there. And you notice I've got bushes right here. I've got trees way up there. There's no way I can make a back cast with an overhead cast in here. I can do a steeple cast perhaps and get away with it, but a snake roll is a much easier cast to perform in these conditions. And I can very easily make a change of direction, and again I point my toe where I want the cast to go. So my lead toe is pointed over there, and that's exactly where the cast goes. So remember, your lead toe determines the direction of the cast. So if I want a little bit further downstream, I change my stance. I put my toe a little bit further downstream, and now my cast goes further downstream. Now, a couple of safety things. When you make your snake roll, you want your fly to land away from you, downstream from you. You want it to be outside of the cast so your line doesn't cross. This is just like a roll cast. If you bring your anchor up too high, you will cross your line when you make your cast. The other thing is if you bring the anchor up in front of you, you risk the fly coming up in your face. So you want to make sure that anchor stays downstream. If I am too aggressive, my fly landed right there. If I'm too aggressive with it. You don't need to be fast or aggressive with the cast. You just have to, nice and leisurely, there goes your cast. Very, very simple. So the snake roll is an easy cast to perform with a single hand rod. You know, you're not trying to coordinate two hands when you're doing this, you're just using one hand. So it's not that difficult, just keeping in mind that you have to do basically a number 9 in the air, and then you cross the bar of the 9 in order to make your back cast. So there's my 9 crossing the bar and the cast. So I'll do a couple and I'll put those in slow motion.
Okay, there you can see the snake roll. It's really a number 9 with the crossing over the bar of the 9, and that's basically it. If you can get that motion going with your rod tip, you can execute a snake roll. So it's not that particularly difficult. It just takes a little bit of mental preparation to think of making that 9 with your rod tip. But if you do that, away it goes. Take your time, make sure your anchor lands downstream of you, never in front of you, and you're good to go. Don't rush it, and it works fine. Cheers. And now on to the double spey.